Hello, and welcome to online worship here at the Laverne Church of the Brethren. My name is Amanda Bennett, and I'm one of the pastors on staff at this welcoming and loving church. We're so glad that you chose to worship with us today. Today is our annual Memorial Sunday. It's a time when we remember the saints in our congregation who have died this calendar year. We also take time to remember the beloved saints in our own lives who have died and joined the vastness of God's love. If you'd like to participate in the ritual of remembering, you're invited to gather a candle in your home and participate in candle lighting for your loved ones at the end of the worship service. And now a few announcements. Lenten Connect groups are now forming. So do you have a hobby or interest you'd like to share with the church? Maybe you like puzzles or board games. Maybe you like to bird or quilt. We're looking for leaders who want to facilitate groups surrounding their interests during Lent. Lenten Connect groups can take place in a multitude of ways, in person or online. If you'd like to lead a group, please visit our website, click on the Lenten Connect signups page under the Connect menu option, and fill out the form. Someone from the staff will contact you about the group that you'd like to lead. If you'd like to stay up to date on the life of the church, sign up to receive our monthly emails, and you can do that on the church website by clicking on the button right off of our homepage. We send an email out each month detailing our calendar and upcoming opportunities of connection. And now, in a spirit of remembrance, let us continue in worship on this Memorial Sunday. Each year, we prepare a time and space in our worship service to remember the saints in our congregation who have died during the year. It's a time to reflect, honor, and celebrate those who have joined the vastness of God's love before us and to recognize their meaningful presence in our lives both individually and collectively in our community of faith. Our beloved church saints embodied the love and life of Christ, and we are grateful for the ways in which their lives have impacted us. They led worshipful lives, some devoted to justice and service. Some shared their gifts of music, others gifts of humor, and still others craftsmanship. Our saints possessed civic leadership and denominational influence. They held fast to family devotion, abundant joy, bold courage, creativity, and steady strength. These holy saints will be held in our hearts forever, and we are better because of them. As we move into a time of remembering our saints, I invite you to ground yourself in gratitude. As I speak their names, a candle will be lit as an act of remembrance and recognition of the light that they brought into the world. May we remember their light this day. Anne Carl. Anne Linville. Billy Elftman. Carolyn Smith. Fern Schechter. Joseph Lyons. Opal Wilkinson. Park Southworth. Paula Stanley. Vera Mae Gephardt. William Ryan.
And when I rise, let me rise up like a bird without regret, joyfully. And when I fall, let me fall down like a leaf without regret, gratefully. And when I rise, let me rise up like a bird without regret, joyfully. And when I fall, let me fall down like a leaf without regret, gratefully. And when I rise, let me rise up
Our scripture reading for this morning comes from the book of Genesis. When Jacob ended his charge to his sons, he drew up his feet into the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Then Joseph threw himself on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him, and he observed a time of mourning for his father 7 days.
Grief is a tricky thing, isn't it? It isn't linear. It's often one step forward and 10 steps back. There is no one size fits all. We may lose a loved one and experience a sense of relief and joy for the life that they lived, for the impact our beloved made in the world and in our lives. Some of us experience loss that leaves us dazed and confused, unable to experience life as we once did, unable to taste food, smell the roses, laugh, or even smile. Life becomes a blur, waking each day unsure of what day or month we are living in. Weeping becomes commonplace. We force ourselves to eat a few bites of something because, after all, we know that we should. One foot goes in front of the other, but we aren't quite sure how the world keeps turning when our lives have been turned upside down. In our Genesis text today, Joseph's father, Jacob, has died and is gathered to his people. I imagine to the saints, the angels that have gone on before him. Joseph holds on to his father, Jacob, kisses him, and weeps. The story goes on to outline his burial and rituals of mourning. Since Joseph found himself as an Egyptian leader, his father's burial had Egyptian and Hebrew customs. And in this text, we see a reference to a rich Jewish ritual, a mourning period of 7 days called sitting Shiva. We see elements of Shiva in the Job narrative as well. Job loses his children tragically and then experiences immense physical pain. As he suffers, his friends approach him, and while their later speeches may not have been helpful, what they do upon arrival I find to be sacred. They rip their clothing in grief, throw dust on their heads, audibly weep, and sit with Job in silence for 7 days. They practice the art of sitting Shiva. This ritual of sitting Shiva resonates in my soul because Shiva acknowledges the upside-downness of life after loss, both literally and metaphorically. Today, this ritual of Shiva is reminiscent of both the Job and Genesis texts. Following the burial of a loved one, furniture in the mourner's home is literally turned upside down. Cushions are removed from couches, chairs flipped over, declaring that life as it once was has been uprooted. Mourners and their visitors sit low to the ground as an expression of grief and how low their spirits are. Mirrors are covered with blankets, acting as a permission slip to stop shaving and forego the makeup. Those who mourn tear their clothing right over their heart, another symbol of loss. There's no pretending here. The ritual of Shiva allows those who grieve to truly lean in. A Shiva candle is lit and burns the entire 7 days, light representing the loved one. Community prayers take place daily. And I find one of the most beautiful elements of Shiva to be this. Visitors are expected to imitate the grief response of those who mourn. If the mourner wants to rejoice and celebrate, then the tone of mourning is one of joy and celebration. If the mourner chooses to tell funny stories about their beloved, then they share memories and laugh together. If the mourner expresses grief through weeping, then visitors join in the weeping. If those who mourn choose silence, then everyone simply sits in silence together. In my early 20s, I lost a pregnancy pretty early on. I was not prepared for the type of grief that would accompany the news from a doctor that there was no longer a heartbeat and that I would need to have a D&C. When I returned home from the hospital, a friend came to visit. They knocked at my door with a tray of homemade enchiladas in hand. They shared a warm embrace with me, and we spoke not a word about my pain. Instead, we sat on the couch, watched a show in silence. Upon leaving, I received another hug. No cliche words of comfort, no over-spiritualizing, just community and presence. I'm convinced that this friend practiced the sacred art of sitting Shiva. Some time ago, an elderly family member told me that as an elementary school student, he was required to memorize scripture for Sunday school. And he wasn't a fan of this scripture memorization, so as often as he could, he chose to memorize the shortest verse that he could find in the Bible. Smart. John 11:35. Jesus wept. 2 words, yet 2 profound words. A man named Lazarus died, and Jesus arrived in town to see Lazarus' loved ones mourning. Jesus was moved deeply and began to weep. I imagine in that moment, Jesus practiced the art of Shiva. Friends, we worship a God who settles in low to the ground beside us in silence, who tears her clothes in mourning, and who weeps when we weep. As we prepare to come forward to light candles for the saints of those that we have lost in our own lives, may we practice the art of sitting Shiva with one another. May we remember our loved ones in ways that feel right to us, maybe with a smirk, remembering a funny joke they would often tell, maybe holding gratitude for the profound way in which they impacted our life, maybe with deep sadness and tears. Many expressions are valid and welcome. I invite you to come forward and light a candle in remembrance of your friends, family, even pets, of your beloved saints.
Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ-light for you in the night time of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping. When you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen